It was one of those days on Capitol Hill when the air seemed thicker than usual, not with humidity, but with tension. The committee hearing room was packed to the brim, cameras flashing, journalists whispering, and a quiet buzz of anticipation rippling through the air. Everyone knew something was about to happen. The topic was supposed to be about fiscal responsibility and government spending, but when Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez AOC walked in, all eyes shifted. She carried herself with confidence, fiery passion blazing behind every step, and sitting across from her was Senator John Kennedy, calm, unshaken, and sharpening his reading glasses with a faint, knowing smile. The two had crossed paths before, but today felt different. This wasn't just a discussion, it was a showdown. As AOC took the microphone, she wasted no time. "Senator Kennedy," she began, her tone laced with confidence, "the American people are tired of being lectured by politicians who pretend to understand working families while protecting billionaires. You sit there quoting the Constitution while ignoring the struggles of the poor." Her words struck like arrows, direct, emotional, and perfectly rehearsed. The crowd leaned forward, sensing drama. Kennedy simply folded his hands and waited. His calmness made her words echo louder, almost uncomfortably so. She pressed on, throwing statistics, emotional pleas, and sharp jabs. "Do you even know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, to choose between rent and food? You've been in power so long, I doubt you remember what struggle even looks like." The room fell silent for a beat. Then Kennedy finally lifted his eyes from his notes. "Congresswoman," he said softly, "I don't have to imagine what struggle looks like. I grew up in it. My father worked 2 jobs, and my mother took in laundry to keep the lights on. So before you assume I don't know pain, maybe ask how I got here instead of assuming it was handed to me." A ripple of murmurs swept across the room. AOC blinked, caught off guard. For the first time, her confidence faltered. But she wasn't done. "Then why," she countered, "do you defend a system that keeps so many in that same cycle of pain?" Kennedy nodded thoughtfully. "Because, ma'am," he replied, "I've learned that government can lend a hand, but it shouldn't hold you down. You talk about compassion, and I respect that. But compassion without responsibility turns into dependency. I want people to rise, not remain stuck waiting for Washington to save them." The crowd erupted in quiet applause, but Kennedy didn't stop there. He leaned forward slightly, his tone steady but personal. "You're a bright young woman. You've got passion and talent. But don't mistake shouting for solving. Leadership isn't about volume, it's about vision. And vision doesn't come from anger, it comes from wisdom earned the hard way." AOC's expression changed. For once, she didn't interrupt. Kennedy's words didn't attack her, they disarmed her. They struck at something deeper, something real. He continued, his voice now gentler, almost like a mentor speaking to a student. "I believe in the people of this country not as victims, but as fighters. The single mother working nights, the young man starting a business from his garage, the farmer praying for rain. These people don't need speeches about how broken they are. They need hope that they can still build something better." Every word seemed to pull the room closer. The crowd leaned in, captivated not by theatrics, but by truth. AOC took a slow breath. Her fiery demeanor softened. "So you're saying a broken bar hope is enough?" she asked, her tone no longer defiant but searching. Kennedy shook his head. "Hope isn't enough, but it's where we start. Hope is the spark that gets a person out of bed. Hard work, faith, and responsibility, those are the flames that keep that spark alive. That's what built this country. That's what keeps it going." The silence that followed was powerful, the kind that carried meaning beyond words. Even AOC seemed to understand that something larger than politics had just unfolded. The moderator cleared his throat, signaling to move on. But everyone in that room knew they had witnessed something rare, a moment when politics gave way to humanity. After the hearing, Kennedy quietly gathered his papers and stood to leave. As he reached the door, he felt a light tap on his shoulder. It was AOC. "Senator," she said, her tone softer now, "I didn't expect that answer." Kennedy smiled faintly. "Neither did I," he replied. "Sometimes, the best debates aren't about winning, they're about understanding." She nodded, eyes thoughtful. "Maybe we should have more of those." He tipped his head. "I'd like that, Congresswoman. As Kennedy walked down the marble corridor, reporters swarmed around, shouting questions about whether he thought he won the exchange, but he didn't answer. He just smiled that small, knowing smile and kept walking. Because in his heart, he knew that what had happened wasn't about victory, it was about respect. And for once, in a city that thrives on division, two voices from opposite sides had found common ground, not in ideology, but in honesty. That day, social media exploded. Clips of the exchange went viral. Some called it a masterclass in civility. Others said it was proof that real dialogue still had a place in American politics. But those who watched closely saw something deeper at the moment when conviction met humility, and both walked away changed. Because in the end, Kennedy didn't silence AOC with insults or mockery, he did it with truth, patience, and grace. And that more than any headline is what left her speechless. Moral, true strength isn't about shouting louder than your opponent. It's about speaking from the heart, with courage, compassion, and the kind of wisdom that bridges divides instead of widening them.